Welcome to podcast 43. Yes, 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 maybe, but yes.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of podcast 43. It is your host, Chris Borg, and I'm joined yet again with my additional co-host slash friend, I think, Fulton Collins.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, but we're acquaintances, and that's all that really matters in order for us to host a podcast together. So,
yeah, we tolerate each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, it's chaos. It's a classic Garfunkel and
Oates. Yeah.
And or no, Paul Simon and
it's Art Garfunkel.
Art Garfunkel. Yeah.
But so today we're gonna talk about the sequel to American Graffiti from 1979, More American Graffiti, which is not directed or written by George Lucas. It's actually directed by Bill Norton. So different director, same cast though. And his other films include like a whole lot of nothing really. He did direct a movie that has Kevin Dillon in it, and of course we all love Kevin Dillon at podcast 43 because of his great Johnny Drama performance. But other than that, Bill Norton's only other credit that is of note is Cisco Pike with Chris Christopherson and Gene Hackman and Harry Dean Stanton. But I've heard good things about that one. But yeah, I guess I'll let you take this one away, Fulton, because it was your pick, and you definitely like American Graffiti a lot more than I do.
Well, just to talk about American Graffiti before we get into more American Graffiti. So I watched this film because back in our hometown, there's a little place called the Diner. And it was like a breakfast place. I believe it was called the Diner. I'm kind of drawing a blank on what it was called. I think it was called the Diner, but not sure. I knew the owner, and he said that the whole establishment was based off of this movie. So me and my dad went to go see, but we ended up renting American Graffiti, and we watched, and that was my first experience watching it. This is like early high school, I think, for me, something along the lines of that. And so I really, really liked it back then. And I thought I became very attached to the mood of the film, and it feels like one really, really long night. And then I would later become to associate it along the lines with other films I would associate it with other films like Dazed and Confused and Fast Times at Ridgemont High and kind of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just kind of like hangout films. And then the more I thought about it, the more I came into question about the film. And it's something that I kind of noticed a lot more upon my rewatches, and with my rewatch, Chris, I have to agree. I don't know how you could really like any of these characters because they all are very, very questionable people. And then so I have to think about what was the mindset of making this movie. And so for people who might not know, Francis Ford Coppola challenged George Lucas to make a fun and kind of uplifting, kind of commercial movie. And to his credit, it performed very, very well commercially, and it also launched. I don't want to say launched, but it definitely helped a kind of push for more media centered around the 50s and 60s, because then we would see the TV show Happy Days and other shows along the lines of that. And it also kind of helped Ron Howard become more of a household name. And then also I find it interesting that the person that plays the actor that plays Terry the Toad came from sitcom roots as well, just like Ron Howard. But so the film did very, very well commercially. But then when you look at it, I would say most of the men mistreat women and are very, very, very questionable when it comes to their treatment of women. And Just for one instance, there's an older male teacher that at the prom is talking to a ton of female students, and he's like, all right, now y'all sexy, ooh, shouldn't say that, y'all young girls better get away from me, or something along the lines of that. And then it's inferred that he has a relationship with one of them at the prom, like in the, behind the school or something, in some basement or something like that. And despite all the issues that I have with a lot of the male characters in the film, I can't explain why, but I still do like the film. But I like it more because of there's just something about it, and something about the mood of that one long night. And I know that you can go to other films and kind of get a better, exploration of like a one long night type of movie. But I don't know, there's just something about this one in particular that I do find to be very fascinating. And I do wish that that I could like the characters, but I really can't, because they just all are like really, really like bad people. So Chris, I was gonna kind of let you kind of tell your side of what you think about American Graffiti.
Well, Fulton, I gotta say that I don't really like American Graffiti.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could say that there are many movies with American in the title that suffice as better films. American Psycho, American Beauty,
Mhm.
American Sniper, even, dare I say. But American Graffiti, on the other hand, is just people driving around listening to the radio, and some various hijinks ensue. And there's some good moments for sure. I think that the scene at the end with the disc jockey is a very touching moment.
Mhm.
But there are better movies about just people chilling. And I think it's also kind of I don't really have much affinity for the 50s in the same way that
Mhm.
I do like the 70s. And that's why I like something like Dazed and Confused a lot more, or even even Licorice Pizza,
Mhm.
because it was just my own personal tastes. This also, it made George Lucas a more viable name, it made George Lucas more popular, and definitely helped him make Star Wars. But
Mhm.
it's like, if we don't have American Graffiti, then we may not have Star Wars, and we may
Wow.
we'll have a different George Lucas. We'd have George Lucas
That
still
is
working.
true.
We'd have George Lucas working side by side with Francis Ford Coppola at American Zoetrope, making
Yeah.
cool movies.
Well,
Instead
I mean,
of
have you seen THX 1138?
I've seen parts of THX 1138, but I haven't seen like
Uh-huh.
the whole thing. And like, I don't think it's like, it doesn't look like incredible. It doesn't really like captivate me, but it's like,
Mhm.
it's still more interesting than like,
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it. I wasn't that crazy about it, but it is interesting to kind of put these into comparison for American Graffiti to come right out after THX. But
well, because
I was
George Lucas said, hey, or no, Francis Ford Coppola said, hey, George, I dare you to make a commercially viable film. And then he never looked back.
That is true. I mean, but I will be honest, I do have a special affinity for like the 50s and 60s. And I also think like there is something really interesting at play in the film that I think it could have probably been touched on a lot more. But it is kind of like on the brink of it's almost like on the brink of the whole world falling apart for America in some ways, it feels like, because it's right before the JFK assassination, right before Vietnam, which more American Graffiti will, we'll get to talk about how that film kind of handles the current situations of those kind of two topics and stuff like that. But
Oh,
there is
I also
something.
I do have an affinity for the 60s. Let me get that
Mhm.
straight. But this is like not like the latter half of the 60s. So it's like still kind of
Yeah,
the 50s. Yeah.
it's early. I mean, it might as well be the 50s. It feels like in some regards, but like
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, it's interesting from that perspective and kind of like what that holds over the film and the film's characters. But I will be honest, even though I've heard other people say that, I still think that that kind of idea could be explored a lot more. I think it's a really interesting idea that never really gets fully like tapped into, because I forget what there's like a few kind of one-off lines that allude to kind of the coming to that stuff. There are a few lines that foreshadow it, but it doesn't really go into great detail on those topics. But um, I think that was kind of all I wanted to say on American Graffiti. If you had anything else that you kind of wanted to add on to it.
Not really.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, just to kind of move us into more American Graffiti. So when this film did as well as it did, George Lucas did write up a sequel, and he wanted to make a sequel to it. But he couldn't get it picked up anywhere, so he just kind of shelved the sequel idea for a bit. And then I forget who approached him about doing the sequel. But I believe he did write the story, just not the script. I believe he gave the story and the story structure over to, um, is it BWL Norton?
Bill L. Norton.
Oh, Bill L. Norton. Okay. Bill L. Norton. I believe he did give the story structure and the story over to Bill Norton. And then Bill wrote and directed the film. But there's a lot of contingency there as to who, directed what and who edited what. Because apparently George Lucas shot all the Vietnam scenes. And then he also was in the editing room a lot. And apparently, even though he is credited as an executive producer, he had a very, very strong hand in the making of the film. And so, with that kind of as the groundwork, Chris, what are your kind of, how do you feel about more American Graffiti?
Well, I think this is just a better film than American Graffiti. Simply,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't really have any affinity for American Graffiti, and I don't really have any affinity for more American Graffiti. But
Mhm.
I can say that what a more American Graffiti does is a lot more interesting than what American Graffiti does. By having 4 different stories that all take place on New Year's Eve with some of the characters from American Graffiti, I think that it manages to continue a story about these people in a very different way, and it didn't want to just go into like kind of crowd pleasing territory, which they could have easily veered into, where
Mhm.
they could have just been all of these people meeting up again and they're like older, but with it has interesting editing choices, the change in aspect ratios based on what story you're in, I think is pretty inventive and
Mhm.
unique. And I don't know, I just enjoyed what I saw. And I mean, there is some issues, I will say, like Richard Dreyfuss isn't in the movie at all. But everybody else is back. I mean, from the minor to, or everybody else is back, including like even Harrison Ford, who has a nice little cameo.
Mhm.
And but yeah, like it takes place during the 60s counterculture instead of,
Mhm.
at the beginning of the 60s, which is still pretty much just the 50s, like the original film. And yeah, I kind of don't really like the boomer nostalgia of American Graffiti, and I don't really care for the 60s nostalgia of this film, because I like a lot of movies set in the 60s, but I don't know, it just feels like very much like, oh yeah, remember that. It's kind
Mhm.
of like playing into playing I it just wasn't I just wasn't crazy about it, but I don't think it really hurts it too much. And I just think there's really not anything else like I've seen. It's really not like anything else that I've seen. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I like it more or I like it less than I like American Graffiti. Like, I think they're pretty much on par with the level of how much I can really get into it. Into them, I should say. Um, and then I do find the story structure to be quite fascinating because I mean, I guess we'll kind of briefly talk about spoilers, but the ending of American Graffiti, it kind of lets you know where each character kind of ends up. So it makes making a sequel kind of difficult because you really have to stay within those confines that were already set up. And then, so at the ending of American Graffiti, we learn that John Milner is going to die.
Yeah.
Pretty much like right after, like a few days or months or something, or sorry, like a few days or weeks or something after the ending of American Graffiti. and and then so they have his kind of storyline set on this one whole day on New Year's Eve, like 1965 or something like that. And then they have Terry the Toad in Vietnam the following New Year's Eve. And then the New Year's Eve after that, it's set on his girlfriend Connie, I think, or Betty or Connie. And then the New Year's after that, it's Ron Howard and I forget her name, but Ron Howard and his girlfriend's name from American Graffiti. And then so it's set on the same day but 4 separate years, and it's really interesting how each of them are kind of each of them are stylistically different from the next. And this includes like how the editing works and the aspect ratios and everything like that. And they all have their very own specific feel. I was curious to know which one was your kind of favorite segment.
I think my favorite segment was easily the segment with Ron Howard and Cindy and Lori and Cindy Williams's character. So Lori and Steve's whole thing about how Lori wants to work and not just be a housewife, and like how Steve is like, no, you can't, I'm not gonna let you, and then get into a fight, and she like leaves, and she's like, I'm going to stay with my brother, and her brother's like very much involved in like, leftist counterculture causes, and then then he's like burning his draft card, and the cops come, and like she gets like kind of caught up in all that. I think it's just a very entertaining story, and it's very funny too to see, like, especially like that scene where like she's arrested and detained on the bus with all the other like hippies, and they all start singing Baby Love to annoy the cop. And I would say probably my least favorite is honestly the John Milner one, New Year's Eve 1964. It's
okay.
Or I don't know. The hippie ones, the hippie one's kind of annoying too, honestly.
I was gonna say, even though I really like what is going on stylistically in the hippie one, I'm not that crazy about it. But like, I like the John Milner one, and to his credit, he does have some
He does some shitty
character.
stuff.
He does shitty things. But there seems to be some hint of a progression against the shitty stuff, because he mistreats, he kind of forces himself upon this Icelandic woman that he meets, and then he comes to realize that what he was doing was wrong, and he tries to make it right.
Yeah.
But I was really hoping we would get into this movie and there would be like none of that shitty kind of behavior. But so that was disappointing to me to see that. But I think he does have some progression. I don't think that his character ends off on a bad spot at all. I mean, it's very sad what happens, and kind of how they allude to that. And I really, really do like the final shot of John Milner's car kind of going down the road, and how
they
it's
allude
framed.
to like he probably died in that.
Yeah, that night. And but yeah, I don't know. I think I do like the goofiness of the Vietnam sequence because it was shot on 16 millimeter, I think.
Yeah.
It was shot on 16 millimeter
And
and
has the
like we
most
said,
narrow aspect ratio.
yeah. But I don't know, there's something about Terry the Toad just fucking up everything for this Vietnam compound that I did find to be quite funny. Although it
Just
wasn't what I was expecting, to be quite honest. I wasn't expecting the film to be as like slapstick as it can be sometimes.
just so he could get out of
He could dodge having to do his war duties, no pun intended. So but yeah, was there anything else that you kind of had in mind that you wanted to talk about with more American Graffiti?
mm, not not really. I think it's
Yeah,
just more kind of like uh, a worthy sequel, and I'm still very confused about like the the hate that it received.
yeah,
But
I don't know.
I know that Roger Ebert was a champion of it, as you told me.
Yeah, we were talking about it beforehand, and it was reviewed very, very negatively. And it was also a box office failure, but I think the box office kind of failure has to be due to when it was positioned. I don't remember the two movies it was sandwiched in between, but it was sandwiched in between two really, really big movies. So I think it was just kind of released at the wrong window.
Also, a lot was
Um,
riding on it when it's like, I don't know, American Graffiti made so much money. Like
it did, yeah.
made like $140 million off of a budget of like $750,000. So
It's insane. But yeah, so a lot of people called it I don't know, I guess a lot of people had a lot of love for, I should say a lot of critics had a lot of love for the first one when it first came out. So I think they were very shocked by the stylistic differences of this one. I really didn't read a single good review that I like. I looked up on Google. Of course, you find it. You can find a varying amounts of opinion on Letterbox with it. Um, but yeah, no, Siskel hated it. Ebert loved it. So that must have been pretty. That must have been pretty tough for their relationship there for a bit, you know.
yeah, I can
So,
imagine. Yo,
um,
you ever think about it like we're kind of like Siskel and Ebert?
are we?
Yeah. So we both talk about movie.
Just two dudes talking about movie. I don't know which one is more. If are you more Ebert or are you more Siskel?
I think you're Ebert and I'm Siskel, honestly. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't think I know of their two kind of interests in film enough to really say.
You're kind of Roper, actually. You're Roper.
Was Roper the stand-in guy when one of them was sick?
He was like the final replacement. Yeah.
Mm, interesting. I'll have to do my research. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like for a film that is doing a lot, I don't have a lot to say about it. You know,
I
which I
don't
think is, fair to say, but
I mean, I don't think this movie has a lot to say, honestly. I think it's just like about
well, I mean
some
to say like it's doing a lot
oh yeah, it's
stylistically, but like,
doing a lot.
yeah, but I don't think it's
It's like,
it's not
oh,
really
this
making a
is
lot of points.
it's just like,
Again,
yeah, the 60s, they're crazy, right? Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. But it's not like medium cool. Which that's my thing is like I love movies that were made in the 60s, like Medium
Mhm.
Cool, like Zabriskie Point, some of my favorite films, Le Chinoise, uh anything about politics in the 60s, but like movies about the politics of the 60s, that's when you kind of lose me because you're looking at something with rose tinted glasses and it's
Mhm.
just and
Like
then you can
across the
get I
universe.
was gonna say, and then you can take that to its you can take that to the maximum level with across the universe and then you have brainworms. Actually, that's what happens. So
Man, that'll be a bad day when we have to review Across the Universe on the podcast.
let's hope that day never comes. Today we're going to talk about the filmography of Bono. All right. Well,
yeah, I guess we can
transition to
let's get right into the
the
news.
news. Yeah.
The Oscars, baby. What do you?
Do you want to do ad break or?
I figured we could do it after.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Because we didn't talk about American Graffiti for too long, so it'll kind of, position it more in like the middle.
Well, yeah. So the Oscar noms came out about a little over a week ago. Oscars are on March 27th, hosted by Amy Schumer for some reason.
And Wanda Sykes, and there is a third
Regina
host.
Hall.
Yes.
And I think Regina Hall and Wanda Sykes are good choices.
I agree.
Amy Schumer.
I don't agree.
I don't know. I don't know why.
Is this the first time they've ever had 3 people host it?
I think so.
It sounds like a lot, though.
Well, because they didn't have hosts for like 2 years.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So
Forgot about that.
Or 3
should we talk
years.
about Best Picture first, I guess?
Yeah, so the Best Picture nominations, and me and Fulton were talking about this before, but for some reason, I think it was just on the basis of advertising, or on the basis of like how it helps these movies do better at the box office. But like they were just like, all right, 5 Best Picture nominations, that's kid shit. Let's double it, 10. All right. And so it's like, okay, cool. You can give more exposure to movies that like maybe wouldn't have been nominated, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because it also allows more mediocrity to flow into the nomination categories. Like, I don't know, man, but I don't really think that like does
half
Dune
of them
really what?
Half of them should not be in there.
Yeah.
This is the first year that I said just because you can put 10 movies does not mean that you should. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like I feel like I haven't seen Nightmare Alley yet, so
I don't think it. I mean, I'm pretty okay with Nightmare Alley. I don't think it's a bad film. I don't think it's really a Best Picture type film. No, I was very surprised to see that Nightmare Alley made it. Dune, I was surprised to see. Don't Look Up, I kind of expected it to be, but if it wins, oh my god.
If it wins, where me and Fulton are going to like,
I mean,
go on a rant for like an hour.
Yeah.
The episode after the Oscars.
I mean, we'll get to the other category that I think if Don't Look Up wins that, they're like, we're gonna have to burn down the Academy. Not that I give a shit, but I mean, I say not that I give a shit, but I always have some level of interest. But I've like every single year I've just, like 2016 was like the peak when I was really into award season, and then ever since then it's just, I mean, like nosedived. I've just lost so much faith in all this shit. But
the one institution that people have lost the most faith in this past 10 years, well, it's the institution of the Academy Award.
But like, I mean, you've seen Belfast. Do you think it should be in the running for Best Picture?
No.
Yeah. See, I mean, that's like,
I like Belfast. I'll defend Belfast, but it's not Best Picture material. I am happy that Drive My Car got nominated. I think that's pretty cool. It's not gonna win, but that's pretty cool.
I honestly like, I don't know, maybe sorry, you were saying, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say like King Richard. That was an easy one. That was like they that was like they wrapped it up in a bow and put a bow on
Yeah.
it for the Academy to nominate. But yeah, I mean, I'm saying if again, I haven't seen Power of the Dog, I haven't seen King Richard, I haven't seen Nightmare Alley, and I haven't seen Coda yet. So I will get around to those before the Oscars actually happens, but I feel like I'll really like Power of the Dog. I feel like it's my kind of thing. And if I
It's great,
do,
man.
I mean, if I do, that will be probably if Power of the Dog or Licorice Pizza wins or Drive My Car, I'll be happy.
It's Licorice Pizza or Power of the Dog for me.
Yeah.
Power more specifically Power of the Dog, but don't I feel like it's not going to. I really don't know what's gonna win is the weird thing because this is such a weird list.
Yeah. West Side Story is not going to win though.
I I don't know. It could. I
I think
really
it would
think
be
it could. I don't think it will, but there's like the 10% in my mind that's like, maybe it could. Um,
But yeah, the best director, yet again, like fine. Kenneth Branagh, Belfast, Rizuke Hamaguchi, Drive My Car, Paul Thomas Anderson, Licorice Pizza, Jane Campion, Power of the Dog, Steven Spielberg, West Side Story. All of
mhm.
these are good picks except for Kenneth Branagh for Belfast. Sorry, Kenneth, you're just not in the same category as the other four.
Well, I think it's a travesty that Sean Baker wasn't. I
Yeah,
think he should
no,
have definitely got a directing nod at least.
that
If they're
was
not
that
gonna
was
put Red Rocket in there.
that was the most egregious thing was the shunning of Red Rocket,
Yeah.
my second favorite film of the year after Licorice Pizza, and I don't I didn't expect I didn't expect Malignant to get love, so I didn't have to prepare my
Yeah,
disappointment.
that
I
is
didn't have to prepare
true.
for disappointment. Um, and then just a few other things. For best actor, I really see the only person I've heard from people that like Benedict Cumberbatch or Denzel are probably the two in the running. I've heard being the Ricardos is awful.
Hmm.
Another one that I have to watch. And I love Javier Bardem, but I don't know. Javier Bardem plus Aaron Sorkin's direction. I don't know. I don't
The only
know.
reason I see it going to him, if he was to get it, was to be like a makeup thing. I
Yeah.
don't remember if he was nominated again in the past years and he didn't get it. My I want Andrew Garfield to win this one.
Yeah, of course. We're big Andrew Garfield cheerleaders
Yeah,
here.
but
He
I
should have
thought
been
Denzel
nominated
was,
for Spider-Man. We all know this.
I don't know, man. I didn't see anyone. Benedict Cumberbatch is probably my safe pick.
Mm,
But I want Andrew Garfield to win.
yeah.
I've never, like, I don't know, man. There's just something about his performance in Tick Tick Boom that's just so engrossing. Like it fits so well. Like I didn't feel that same type of energy coming from any of the other people. But I haven't seen Being the Ricardos. I haven't seen King Richard. I
Um,
thought Denzel was good in Tragedy and Macbeth, but I mean Denzel's already acclaimed, and I don't really think he does like based off of Tragedy and Macbeth. I didn't leave the theater. I was like, damn, that was I don't know, but cinematography for Tragedy and Macbeth and probably production design, I would give it to Tragedy and Macbeth as well. Those are
yeah.
the ones I would kind of do.
And for best actress, I mean, it's like Jessica Chastain
No,
because she just put on a lot. It's another one of those.
yeah.
That doesn't look like Jessica Chastain. Isn't that crazy? Um,
That movie is so it's very frustrating to me because it could be a really, really good movie. I would have picked it if it didn't want to make fun of Tammy Faye as well. Um,
Olivia Colman in The Lost Daughter. Love Olivia Colman as an actress, of course. Peep Show is one of my favorite TV shows, but I don't know. She really didn't do it for me in that movie. That was just kind of a
no.
whatever movie. Penelope Cruz and Parallel Mothers. Still have yet to see Parallel Mothers.
Same
Nicole
here.
Kidman and Being Ricardo. I'm saying Kristen Stewart and Spencer.
I'm
she's
saying
showing-
that too.
Yeah.
That's my number one. So
Yeah, and then like I guess the last thing I want to say I'm happy that this was I'm happy that this got some traction from the Academy is the Worst Person in the World Best Original Screenplay nomination is pretty cool. And I'm happy that they're showing it some love because it is a lovely film.
mhm.
Oh, and also last thing, I promise. Best original song nomination, Down to Joy from Belfast by Van Morrison. I really, really want Van Morrison to get that award because he's gonna say some crazy shit when he accepts his award because he's like gone full conspira boomer and it will be really funny. He's gonna talk about like, I don't know, like how you should stop using Facebook and how there's like I don't know, it's just crazy conspiracy stuff shit. I mean stuff. Like
Mhm.
his like latest album was like just the title, the track titles are just like really goofy,
Mm.
like such hits as why are you still on Facebook? Or another one, where have all the rebels gone? They control the media, or they own the media. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
sounds kind of anti-Semitic there, Van. But
God.
yeah, so he is really not putting out his finest work anymore. But if he did go up on stage, it would be a legendary acceptance speech where he would talk about how COVID is a conspiracy or something. I don't know.
I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about was the nominees for film editing. These ones are very interesting. We have Don't Look Up, Dune, King Richard, Power of the Dog, and Tick Tick Boom. And I legitimately do think Don't Look Up is going to get it because I don't think that it's going to win Best Picture and people are going to try to push for it in film editing. I would love to be wrong,
I would hate,
but I don't
I would
really
hate-
see.
They've been
I don't
wrong
see
in the
Tick Tick Boom
past.
getting it.
Remember when
Yes.
Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Editing?
Yeah, I do. That one was shocking. But I mean, me and Chris talked about it in great length when we reviewed Don't Look Up, and it's probably the it had some very questionable editing. I don't want to dog out any more than we probably already have, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of highlight that. That was the last thing for me.
Okay. Well, that's I guess that's really all we have to say about the 94th annual Academy Awards. We'll be there, we'll be watching it with a beverage in our hand and the trusty bingo board that we'll have for Oscars bingo, because there's definitely going to be a lot of reoccurring things.
COVID jokes.
Ben said, friend of the show, Ben said, that would be really funny if like Amy Schumer called out Lights Camera Jackson.
That would be great. He deserves to host it. They've got to give him his
You
time.
gotta give Lights Camera Jackson some love. All right, so I guess we're gonna take an ad break before we get back into the top three. So
Okay. And we are back. Talk about our top three. Wait, actually, I guess I have some new releases to talk about if that's okay. I can talk about those real quick.
yeah, you can talk about Soderbergh's newest.
Yes, so I saw that in Death on the Nile, Branagh's newest output. So Kimi, which is Steven Soderbergh's new film, I believe that this film was going to have a theatrical release, and then it was shuffled onto HBO Max. And
Tragic.
I was very excited. What's up?
I said tragic.
Yeah. I was very excited. I've been looking forward to this. I think I would have liked to see it in theaters because I haven't seen a Soderbergh film in theaters since Logan Lucky, I want to say.
Not
Which,
Unsane.
no, I didn't see that one in theaters. I
Uh,
saw that one at home. Unfortunately, I wish I saw it in theaters. I'm a big fan of that movie. Um, just to get it out of the gate, there's no Matt Damon cameo in this one. I was very sad. It seemed like there was a running tally. I didn't think it was going to be broken with this movie, but it was broken, which that was unfortunate. But my main criticism of this movie is that Zoe Kravitz's character, Kimmy, has a reason to act the way that she does. Um, and I don't think that completely excuses her from being like a little unlikable. I don't think she's the most likable person because she's very prickly with a lot of people. And she does have a reason to be like that with certain people. But I don't think that she has to encounter, I don't think that she has to come to every encounter with the same headset or mindset, sorry, that she does with the certain group of people. If that kind of makes sense. I know I'm trying not to like spoil it or anything, but I think the film does have a few issues. um
yeah.
I think the film does have certain issues, and I would be interested to know kind of like the background of the film. The film was written before COVID, but it could be extremely applicable to COVID, so they kind of, I think, moved it in that direction.
Like, don't look up.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But I think this one it works a lot. It works a lot better in the COVID environment than that one did. And it's a very simplistic film at its core. And it's, for people who might not know, it's kind of Soderbergh's riff on Rear Window. And I had another idea of something that it was meshed with, but I'm forgetting what it was now. But hopefully, if I remember it, I'll bring it back up. But I don't want to talk too long onto it. But honestly, it's not it's a pretty easy watch. Um, it's like an hour and 26 minutes. If you really like want something new, I could say you could pop it on. It's not a super strong recommendation, but I don't think it's a terrible movie, but I just had trouble kind of like getting into it, which was unfortunate because I'll talk about another Soderbergh project that I watched this week that I was super into. And then I also watched Kenneth Branagh's Death on the Nile, which is the follow-up to Murder on the Orient Express. And so this film is interesting because it's been delayed numerous times, and then it has been hit after hit with the cast in terms of like people getting canceled, or just controversy surrounding the casting. Because Armie Hammer plays one of the leads in this film, and he was hit during COVID, and has a lot of controversy surrounding him. But not to focus on that. The film is pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. Now, I am not a big Poirot fan. I saw it with friend of the show, Alan, and he is a very, very big Poirot fan, and he hated this film. So I'm interested to see for those Poirot heads how they react to it. Do all of them dislike this film? And for people who aren't Poirot fans, are you like me and you're just kind of like indifferent to it? Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad film. I don't think it's necessarily a very great film, but it's entertaining, and it's exactly what you would think and you would want it to be, I feel like. Um, Not to spoil too much, but I think this would be okay to talk about it because it's like the opening sequence. But it's funny how Branagh kind of leans into his Marvelisms sometimes, because it is explained how Poirot gets his mustache, which I never thought would be a thing, but I'm very glad that it is because it's very funny to think about. But then also to further go into that, the way about the execution and the story of how he gets the mustache is also very confusing, because it happens during World War I, and a bombshell or mortar hits near him and it scars his face, his upper lip. And you might be asking yourself, how can facial hair grow on top of scar tissue? It cannot. So I don't understand what they were doing with that, because it's implied that he grows his mustache over all the scar tissue. So just something to think about. It's pretty funny.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's I think Perot is a very funny character in terms of just like his personality, and maybe I might not find it funny in the way Branagh wants me to, but so yeah. That those are kind of my rough ideas on those two new releases. So what have you been watching this week, Chris? What's your top three?
Well, my top three is a lot of good stuff. Last week was not good, but this week was very solid. There's actually a lot of things vying for this spot, and I guess I'll just talk about new watches, because there were two rewatches of two of my favorite films, Man with the Movie Camera and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, that I don't know, that I feel like I can't really speak on, other than just to say that they're both great, and both should be seeked out. But as far as new stuff, the best thing that I watched for sure was Stroszek, the Werner Herzog film. Very strange, especially when you read about the behind the scenes footage and like what Herzog originally wanted to make, and how just it ended up being that film, because he wanted to make a movie about Ed Gein, the serial killer.
Interesting.
And then he ended up just making a movie about a German immigrant that comes to America and kind of realizes that America is troublesome in ways that he didn't expect, and he thought it was going to be this beacon of hope to his kind of, from his like in kind of an escape from his like kind of desolate life as a alcoholic in Germany that can't get any respect, and he kind of realized that there's other problems that America has, and it also has a very insane ending, of like just absolutely just like something that only somebody like Herzog could come up with. It involves dancing chickens and gunshots and Native American mountain towns in North Carolina. So yeah, it takes place mostly in West Germany, Wisconsin, and North Carolina, and it's a great film. I don't think I can really speak much. I don't think I can really say much else that hasn't been said better by somebody like Roger Ebert as well, but it's another great Herzog film, and Herzog is one of the best directors ever. And then I guess number two would have to be the Hype Williams film Belly from 1998, which is starring DMX and Nas. It's the only feature film that Hype Williams directed. Hype Williams directed many music videos and still does, including about over 20 Kanye West music videos. So it's kind of cool to see him take those music video directing skills in a feature film. And there's definitely a lot of shots in this that look like they were taken directly out of a music video. Very much a heavily stylized movie. The plot is kind of confusing, but it's about two friends basically that are both in the hood, and they deal drugs, and then one of them kind of wants to go down a different path in his life and finds religion, and which is Nas's character, and DMX's character is still kind of tied into that lifestyle.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's
given that because DMX was he was a born again Christian.
yes, but in
Okay,
this
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Islam.
Oh, okay.
But yes, that is true. He did he did become a born again Christian. And yeah, I mean, like, there's also some other characters that Method Man is in it too, which is cool. And yeah, it's like kind of, I don't know, kind of is reminiscent of a Wong Kar-wai film in visual style, I will say.
Interesting.
But I think a lot of people kind of rediscovered this film and kind of reappraised it after DMX passed away last year, because they were kind of like looking for something to reclaim that DMX was able to like kind of leave his mark on before he unfortunately passed away. And so that was kind of what led to this resurgence in people looking at Belly. And yeah, it's a part of the hood cycle of films like Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood and New Jack City. And so if you like those types of movies, you will definitely enjoy Belly. And if you also like movies that look really pretty, Hype Williams actually was slated to direct Speed Racer before the Wachowski sisters ended up directing it, which I'm happy that the Wachowski sisters got it, because they definitely did a great job. But
Yeah.
I'm curious what a Hype Williams Speed Racer would have been like. And my last film is Arizona Dream, which is a film by Emir Costa Rica, who is a Yugoslavian, no, sorry, not Yugoslavian, Serbian director. And he actually won the Palme d'Or twice, which is, I don't know if anybody else has accomplished that. But he's directed things like Black Cat, White Cat, Underground, yeah, Time of the Gypsies. But Arizona Dream was kind of American film, his American debut. And it's got Johnny Depp in it. It's got Jerry Lewis. It's got Vincent Gallo and Faye Dunaway and Lily Taylor.
What a
And
cast, man.
yeah, it's a it's crazy just to see like Vincent Gallo and Jerry Lewis and Johnny Depp all interacting together on the screen. Jerry Lewis is like Johnny Depp's like uncle, and he sells like cars. And Faye Dunaway is like always trying to like have sex with Johnny Depp and Vincent Gallo. And yeah, it's very surrealist. It's a little too long. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I don't really think that it's paced necessarily well, but just I think that the cast alone sells the film as far as like what you're gonna expect. There's a great scene where Vincent Gallo reenacts the famous scene in North by Northwest where Cary Grant's getting chased by the airplane. It's very funny. So yeah.
For my top three, okay, what am I gonna talk about? I guess I'll really only talk about. Okay, I guess I can. Okay, I'll start out with Jackass 2.5. For people who might not know, the 0.5 Jackasses are comprised of outtakes and interviews that didn't make it into the final film. There's a 2.5, a 3.5, and a grandpa 0.5 for all my for all the Dick House fans that listen to the podcast. I'm kind of just talking about this one because I have something to say about it. With the other films I watch, I don't know if I have as much to say, but I think with this one, there are a lot of very funny bits that probably could have made it into the original Jackass 2. But it's all kind of weaved together with some interviews. And I think there are certain moments when the interviews do enhance the actual prank. And there are other moments And I think this is kind of the case most of the time, where the interview just doesn't really add much to the like prank. Just for an example, the beginning of 2.5, we see Johnny Knoxville like in Germany or somewhere in Europe, and he's going to like a weird like it's like a weird like sex massage place. And the the idea is pretty evident in the footage that they shot while at this place, but then they have Johnny Knoxville explaining how they got there and what they were doing, but it's kind of redundant to a certain extent. And so that kind of framing happens a few times throughout the film. I don't necessarily think that it's needed. But so there you go, that's Jackass 2.5. And it ends with a very funny sequence with Mike Judge in it. And Mike Judge was not told what the prank would be or what he would be partaking in. So that makes it even better knowing what the actual prank is. And then I'll talk about Bed and Breakfast, which also goes by another name, Third Machanska Street.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think so me and Chris are taking a Russian cinema class, so this is one of the films that we had to watch. And I don't know, I really like this film. I think the acting is really good for a silent film. It's not necessarily like overdone in the way that some kind of silent film acting, some of it can be very over expressive. And this one plays it just right. And I think it really strikes a tone with the acting, and it's really good. And I also wanted to highlight the production design for a lot of the film. It's very good, because most of the film is set within this central, it's set within one room, and basically there's a love trio kind of going on that sets up the conflict for the film. And it's also, well, I guess I'll talk about that in a second. But just to talk about the husband, one scene that I really like with the film is when he's out working on, I think he's working on a theater, a famous Russian theater, I want to say. And I just found the editing to be so captivating during this sequence. And it's not like this throughout the whole film, but I think the film is edited in a very good way. But especially like within this time period, we do see a lot of experimentation within the editing. And so we kind of have like a split screen, which I had not seen in the films that I have watched from this period. I hadn't seen a split screen up till here, but now we watched Man with a Movie Camera, and also a few other films that do kind of push that idea a lot further. But up to this point, I hadn't seen anything like that. So I thought that was really interesting. Well, I mean, I guess we have the superimpositions in Sunrise as well, but you know, it's just very interesting to see that kind of early experimentation in film. And then I don't know why, but I think the restoration that I watched was really good as well. But just the film, it just looks so good. Like I love the cinematography as well. Like, and especially those outside sequences. Like I can't stress enough just like how good it is. Like it reminded me of when I watched The Exorcist, sorry. And it's a film that I didn't think it was going to look like I didn't think that it was visually going to look bad, but I was just absolutely stunned with how good the film quality actually was and how good the shots were composed. And I think there's an extreme amount of detail that is in this film that's also very noteworthy. And then the last thing to add on to it, and other people have done and talked about this a lot more than I have, and you can go and get a better reading on it, but I do find it interesting to be kind of one of the first early feminist films as well. But I don't know, I was going to say I can spoil it, but it's from 1927, so I don't think I'm going to add anything new to it. But and so my number one thing, I've been trying to watch this movie for about a month now, and I just found it. And it's Steven Soderbergh's Psychos, which is a It's a mashup of the 1960s Psycho and Gus Van Sant. 90, is that 98 or
98,
99?
yeah, 98.
98 Psycho. And oh my God, I have a lot of intense emotions about this film. I kind of I went into detail on my letterbox review because I did feel very inspired to talk about it. Um, but Psycho is the movie that got me into cinema. I mean, it really kind of propelled me into seeing what can be done with film and how film can make you feel and how it can make you terrified and it can make you engrossed in people's stories and everything. And I really do think it's a beautiful thing that Steven Soderbergh has done because he's been able to give me that kind of, with a film like Psycho, I like it so much. I've seen it so many times, and I've seen all the Psycho films. I've seen the Bates Motel TV movie. I've seen the TV show. So I've seen this story done a lot in many different ways. And I've seen the remake by Gus Van Sant. And so it's not a film that I am particularly scared of anymore because after I saw it, I was terrified. I didn't take a shower for like 3 months. I would only take baths because it freaked me out so much. But if I can say that this film has like effectively restored that fear, and the way it goes about doing that is, or I should say, Stephen goes about doing that is, so he takes the 90s Psycho and puts it in black and white, which has also unlocked another it's prompted me to want to return to that film because I've always kind of hated it. I've kind of dismissed it, but now I really want to return to it. And I think it's a damn shame that it took me having to see the film in black and white for me to fully appreciate just how good the cinematography is with that 90s version. It's insane. But so I think what Steven is doing is he's operating and using both psychos to tell the two sides of Norman Bates and of Marion Crane. And I think it's important because Psycho is about kind of having two people, your true self, and then kind of the one that you put up for show for other people. And it's really fascinating. I'm trying to sell everyone that I can on this thing because I think you really should watch it. But I also know, I think in order for you to kind of really get into it, you'd kind of have to see both versions and then get to this one. But yeah, I don't want to talk too long on it because I know we've probably been recording for a while. But I just think like,
I was gonna say, like, it would be cool though if you got to go to a Q&A with Soderbergh and like you asked him about this. I bet he would be very surprised. Be like, well, I think he'd appreciate like your extensive knowledge of like his recuts, because like,
yeah, I think it's fascinating. I mean, it's really something because I want to see his Kafka recut too, which is to my knowledge, it's only been shown at Sundance at one time, and he did a Q&A after that. I'd love to get my hands on a copy of that. If anyone knows, please DM us or something, just because I'd love to see it. But anyways, I really do think it's fascinating what he's doing with using these two completely separate things and mashing them, but enhancing both at the same time. Because I think the 60s version is fantastic. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I was going to say that just to kind of fill out my idea that I was going off on a little bit, but I think Stephen is using the Anthony Perkins shots to kind of show the more innocent side of Norman Bates and the one that is not shifted into, Norma mode. And then, when Norman kind of gives into his temptation and his more like sinister tendencies, it switches into Vince Vaughn. And I've always thought Vince Vaughn was goofy as hell as Norman Bates, but now I get it. Like, that's the thing. Like it's also important. I have to rewatch the 90s version to really solidify if this film has been as successful as I think it is. In turning me around and making me realize, what I was missing out on. But then, that same kind of idea of the shifting of someone and shifting into a different film is also the same thing with Marion Crane, you know. But in this one, I think, it could be the inverse. I think you can kind of look at Marion in two different lights. You could either use her 90s counterpart to be her more, or well, I'll say that I think the 90s counterpart is using the more innocent and more true to her side, or true to herself side of Marion, whereas the 60s one is giving in to the the temptation to run away with the money and the temptation to run away with her boyfriend and everything. I don't know. I could talk about it for a while, but I don't want to, hold up everything.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
The it's I'll say it here that I think when we look back on the filmmakers currently making films right now, I think that Soderbergh is going to be like this era's Howard Hawks in a lot of ways, where it's just like he just was able to do so much. And it's really amazing, like how he can just kind of jump from genre to genre with so much ease. And then these recuts too are also just very, very interesting, as well as his cinematography work too. It's just
it's really inspiring, I think. I mean, because you're talking about a man that was working in the industry for so long and was constantly being told, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. And then he's like, fuck it, I'll shoot it on iPhone. And then he did that for a while. And then people were like, okay, all right, now we'll let you do your thing. You know what I mean? So like, he's not in his iPhone era anymore. Which Unsane, I love Unsane. I think it's a great example of one of his iPhone films. I think the first.
High Flying Bird is the other one.
I still need to see that one.
It's pretty good.
I have some blind spots. Yeah.
I did get to see Sex, Lies, and Videotape this week too. So, which was also an amazing trailblazing film, because he was able to market a film that was made that was like made on such a cheap budget and make it such a big deal just by name and kind of this like marketing this whole like marketing campaign that made people very intrigued and curious about it, and kind of helped kick off what Miramax was successful in doing for the next decade and throughout the 90s. And
it's also interesting because apparently we're getting a sequel.
I
don't know if he's still, but
no, technically he said that Full Frontal is like the unofficial sequel. Actually, I'm not kidding.
Oh, I want to see that one too.
Yeah, I got that DVD for like $1, so one day. That and Bubble. Me and Fulton were watching Bubble the other week, and then we were like, this isn't the vibe right now, and then we watched Entourage instead. So
we'll have a Steven Soderbergh episode though.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and I feel like he deserves a lot of time.
He deserves a more in-depth episode. I
We
wouldn't be doing him justice.
Well,
but yeah.
All right. Well, I guess if that is it, then I guess we can announce what next week's movie is.
Let me double check. Let me see. Still the same. Okay. Do you want to announce what it is?
Yeah. All right. Next week, we will be talking about Brian Robbins' 2007 monumental film written by comedic legend Eddie Murphy, Norbit.
So we tried something a little bit different. Normally we did Discord decides in the past, but I thought we would kind of transition to a more to a more accessible platform, Instagram. And so we tried Instagram decides. And it seems the decides episodes are always interesting. I'll put it at that. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're happy to be talking about such a gem, a favorite of Richard Brody, Godard expert and Norbit expert, and also a favorite of Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys.
Really?
Who remarked upon an interview that somebody said, Brian, what movies have you been watching lately? Norbit. And then they said, what's your favorite movie? Norbit.
That's so sick.
Yeah, so
what a champ.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we won't be having Richard Brody or Brian Wilson on next week to talk about Norbit, but we will be having Joseph Shin,
the man who spearheaded the movement himself.
Yeah, the man who spearheaded the Norbit movement. So
yeah,
look forward to that next week. And until then, stay wavy.
Stay safe.
If you think you had a rough start.
Ooh, you ugly black one. You can't give these away.
If you feel you had a tough childhood.
Play with that.
If you believe your whole life has been one bad break after another.
You got a girlfriend? No. What you do now?
Meet a nice guy.
Norbit!
Norbit!
Norbit. Norbit. Norbit!
With a huge problem.
Don't adjust my seat! Look! That's scientifically proved that you was adjusting my seat!
That's not science.
It is, and just let it go!
I'm just taking... What am I gonna do?
Let me tell you, just between the two of us, I can't keep Norbit off me! Boom, bam, boom, boom. But I ain't mad at him. Hey!
Eddie Murphy.
Run for your life!
Eddie Murphy.
It's a horror show.
And Eddie Murphy.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was a
DreamWorks Pictures presents.
Excuse me. What? Are you wearing bottoms? Of course I'm wearing bottoms. Okay.
What's that?
Mary, Mother of God!
Norbit.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was a freak like me? Don't ya?
Don't you wish your girlfriend was a freak like me?